What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Real Deal Fishing Podcast, episode 3 or 4, bonus 3. I'm Kevin,
And I'm Mike.
and we just want to welcome you to the show tonight. Y'all, we have an awesome show podcast for you, and definitely for our Boom Squad. We just want to welcome you all and say thanks for watching. They're watching live on YouTube. So if you're listening to the podcast and you think you might want to see what we look like struggling through these topics sometimes, go on over and join the Boob Squad, subscribe to Palmetto Cats, and come join us in this chat. We got some awesome people in here. Tonight, Mike, we have an awesome topic. I've been saying awesome a lot, but I just feel that way. We're talking about bank fishing, and I think you know a little bit about that, don't you?
I have been bank fishing, my father says, for 41 years. Now, I will claim 40 because it's just a nicer round number. And let's face it, how good are you at 3 years old on that bank? You're probably not that good.
Well, you're dealing with a little bit right now of that as a father, which we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
And the first guest we've ever had on the show is here with us tonight. And I'm very excited that we were able to get him on the show. And his name is Tom Owens. His handle on YouTube is LGBASS, which is a head scratcher, but we'll get to all that. Welcome, Tom. How are you this evening?
Doing good. How are you, Kevin? Michael?
It's been a long day, Tom. It's been a long day.
Yeah. I know how that goes. I went out bait fishing today for almost 2 hours and couldn't catch a bluegill.
Oh.
It was tough.
Those are the worst days. Those are the worst days because if there's one thing you should be able to do is catch bluegill from the bank. That should be like one of the primary skills every catfisherman should have. And I do want to shout out this Boom from Mike's Fishing Home, one of our Boom Squad members. He gave us $10. He donated $10 and he said, "Thank you for focus on bank live fishing." Well, thank you for that, Boom, and we definitely appreciate it. Well, Tom is going to get started with bank fishing tonight. Tom, you didn't start off bank fishing, and by your name, your handle on YouTube, LGBASS. Why don't you first tell us how that came about, and then tell us where you started fishing?
Well, I grew up in Massachusetts. There was a pond near the house, had bass in it, and that was the prize: bass, pickerel, sunfish. And we would walk up there, after school, on the weekends, on the summer. We just fished all the time, and I really fell into the bass fishing at an early age. And when I got old enough, I bought a bass boat and I started fishing tournaments. I've fished, 5 or 6 of the BASS tournaments as an amateur. Had a little bit of success at it. But I've been doing local tournament, club fishing, that kind of stuff for the better part of the last 30 years. And last year when COVID hit, all of our tournaments were canceled. Back when you couldn't have more than 10 people in one place at once. We went to a tournament, and we were there at dark 30, got all our boats in the water, and there was only 10 of us. And when we came in at 3 p.m, there was 100 people down there.
Wow.
There were people, guys with their pontoon boats sideways on their trailers on the ramp. There were kids running up and down the dock, and dogs, and it just got so bad. I said, you know what? I said, we used to, at the time, we were babysitting my grandson. He was 2 years old, and I said, I'm not going to risk my grandson's safety over, winning a little bit of money in a bass tournament. I said, so until this is over, I just wasn't going to partake in all that. And
Right.
Lo and behold, my son, who used to he's my fishing buddy since he was 4. He said, well, why don't we get on the dock? We live in a community with a private dock and ramp. So why don't we get down there and catfish? I hear some of the guys are catching fish down there at night. And pretty much the first time I did it, I enjoyed it. I was not used to casting a rod and putting it in a rod holder and just sitting and waiting. The first couple
Right.
nights I was a little bit anxious.
Yeah, I imagine
I
coming
said,
from bass fishing where you're casting all the time, you're going fast on a boat, you might have 5 to 6 setups there, rigs where,
oh yeah,
combos where you have, your wacky rigs, your soft plastic. I'm pretending that I know
mhm,
what bass fishermen use.
yeah,
Your plugs, your spinner baits, all of that stuff. But that's interesting that you say that. And for those of you who are wondering on the podcast, we're bringing someone in, we're primarily cat fishermen to talk about catfishing that hasn't done catfishing for so long. It's because we want to tell the story. It's a great story, and Tom is already doing such a great job telling the story. And I like how you painted that picture for us of the boat ramp being crazy and people prioritizing, uh, you know, earning money or beating other people for money over safety and security and fun.
right.
So I love how you painted that picture.
Well,
So
thank you.
you made that transition. What does LG Bass stand for? What does LG stand for?
Well, LG, it's kind of it's a dual thing. LG is for large,
I
the
figured.
for that, but it's also Lake Gaston, which is where I live.
Oh.
And when I got one of my old it was a Blazer, Chevy Blazer at the time, and I said, well, you know what, I want to get a specialty tag, and I was playing around with it in the DMV site trying to figure out what was available, and LG Bass was available, so that's actually the plates on my truck sitting out in the driveway.
Oh. See,
I
another
always
cool story.
I always wanted to get personalized plates, but in my county, Big Mike is already taken up by somebody who drives around a little Geo Metro and apparently fills it rather well too. Got beaten to it.
And there's a third meaning, as you can see. Life's good bass. So that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So all right, so you transitioned from bass fishing to catfishing. You told us kind of what made you make that transition. You decided it wasn't for you anymore. Did you get rid of the boat? Did you get rid of all the bass fishing gear? Do you still have it? What plans do you have if you still have it?
Nope, the boat is still holding down the driveway. Um, it's doing a nice job sitting out there. I look at her every day, but I mean, in honesty, I could go out and do it. I said, but I really took a liking to the catfishing, and kind of I was a little bit tired with the setup I was in, with the club I was in a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
when you get 10 people together, they can't decide on anything.
That's right.
Everything's a struggle. So I said, you know what, I'm liking this fishing at night, doing my own thing, and
Mm-hmm.
and I decided this year I was going to devote the whole year to just catfishing. I wasn't going to take. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'd start the boat up, run some gas to it or whatever, but I don't
Right.
want to get back into. I want to dedicate this whole year just to catfish and see if it's really what I want to do going down the line. And to be honest, I'm getting up there in age, and I'm getting up there with some health issues creeping in on me, and I don't really feel the need to want to stand on a trolling motor and in heavy seas for 8 hours a day in the hot sun, and
Mm-hmm.
that may be past me. I like the idea of sitting in a reclining chair and having a drink, have a cold bottle of water next to me, and just sitting there talking with some of the guys, and
Right.
so I think right now this is really working for me, and I want to say I'll probably never ever bass fish again, but I don't think I'll ever do it to the levels that I did it before. I still have all
Right.
the gear. I have it actually. Some people have let's say I have a man closet. It's a walk-in closet where we took everything out of it, and it's all filled with nothing but bass gear, to the point that my catfish gear is in my living room by the front door because I don't have room to get it. And the rods are larger and they're harder to get in and out of it.
Right.
But yeah, I don't even have room for my catfishing gear because of all the bass gear I've accumulated over the years.
So would it be safe to say right now you don't really miss bass fishing too much?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would say that's true. Although today, when I went looking to catch some bait, I tried down at the dock and I couldn't get any, so I went to another place about 5 miles down the road where sometimes we have a lot of good luck at it. And there were shad up underneath the bridge, and there were bass busting through them. And there was a guy came out with a bass boat. He saw what was going on. He went over there and he caught like 3 bass in like 5 minutes. I'm like, well, I said, yeah, that looks like fun. But I said, I'm here to catch bluegills. So
So that
I
would be
let
an
it go.
opportunistic bass fisherman if you had to. That would
Well,
be a good
the funny
opportunity.
part is that, with some of these live tournaments that we've been doing, one night the guys were on me to, with the name change to LG Cats. And I actually agreed to change my name for one night for 8 hours to LG Cats. And I promptly caught a 4-pound bass on cut bait.
I saw that.
I said, well, there you go. Maybe it was meant to be.
So then, obviously, I mean, tonight's show is about bank fishing. So
Mhm.
I catfish primarily from a boat. So why not the bass boat catfishing? I mean, you kind of alluded to why, but have you ever thought about, rigging the bass boat up or maybe trading it for a more uh, suitable catfishing boat?
Well, if I did, yeah, I won't use this boat to catfish. One, because it doesn't have rod holders on it, and I don't want to drill into it. It's a nice, beautiful 519 Z519 Ranger
Oh, wow.
with a 150 on it, and it doesn't have a live well big enough to put a big fish if I were to catch one in it. And I want to keep that boat pristine if I am going to sell it or trade it to get something different.
Right.
Last thing I want is a carpet full of cat's line.
Absolutely.
As much as Aaron keeps trying to get me to do it.
So you have a well, so you've only been catfishing for 1.5 years.
Yep.
Talk about how difficult it was to make the change, if it was difficult, and also talk about the biggest challenge, or if you have a couple. What was the, maybe shift in mindset, or was it just stopping, getting on the boat and slowing down? Tell me about a little bit about that.
I think the biggest thing that I had to overcome, or I had to learn, I guess you'd say, is patience. When you're bass fishing, you're always moving, you're always thinking.
Mm-hmm.
As you approach a new piece of structure, how am I going to hit this? Am I going to get it from the right angle? Do I want to go past it and come back on it, or which way's the wind blowing? When you're fishing from the bank, it's kind of like you throw it out there and you wait. And I had a little bit of an issue with that, in that I'd watch some of the guys that like Chunky. I really get a kick out of it when he did his touch my finger. And I'm watching him and his rod's bending and he's sitting in that chair and I'm like, get up, man, get up. I said, you got a fish on there, get it. And he's just sitting there. Nope, he's waiting. And I said, I couldn't do that. So, but I've learned how to do that now. The other thing is obviously most bass hooks are J hook style hooks. And, I started using circle hooks and, I've fished for years. I've caught a lot of fish, and I think I know how to fish. And nobody gonna tell me how to hook a fish. And I'd set that hook like I was gonna pull his ears out, And I think the first 10 fish I missed them. That I had a legitimate shot of a huge takedown, and I missed every one of them because I was trying to rip his ears off. And that's kind of silly from 80 yards away, anyways. When you're way out there. And then I realized that maybe these guys know what they're talking about, and it's been much better ever since. But yeah, that's kind of the thing.
I mean, that's great.
I had to learn to. Good.
No, I said that's great. Keep on. Yeah.
I had to learn to slow down, and I'm fortunate in the bank spot that I'm fishing is right out in front of my dock, so I knew what the structure was, and I knew where the channel is, and so I kind of had a heads up on people that are just going to a spot for the first time and never fishing it, and so we've kind of figured out where the sweet spots are, off the dock, and it's helped us catch more fish. But it's been good. I think now the trials I'm having is dealing with seasonal changes in the catfishing. I mean, obviously in the bass world, that's huge. That what that is, and when on my dock, we just have the dock, which is probably about 6 feet wide, and you can cast 45-degree angle off each corner and straight out. So
Mike,
if you ain't getting bit, there's not a whole lot of places you can go.
Right. Let's talk about that, Mike. So as a seasoned bank angler, Mike, do you think it's easier, and Tom, you can chime in too, but definitely time over a couple of years through the seasons, you'll be able to pattern the fish. Do you think it's easier from the bank to pattern the fish, or do you think it would be easier from the bank over like a boat fisherman, since you're fishing the same general areas most of the time?
I'll say no,
Okay.
just for the fact that bank fishermen can't get everywhere like a boat fisherman can. So even if I have an idea of where I should be going or what I should be doing differently at different times, sometimes I can't get where I want to go. That being said, too, like you're saying, patterns to me is something I've been struggling with and trying to learn. But I've noticed that it's baits at different months, different seasons, let's say, are preferred. The bite may be on the move, let's say, a little bit more during some months versus other months. Whereas we were taught to fish spots, not patterns. So I will say, not that I want to disrespect anything that anybody's ever taught me the first, I don't know, 35 years of the fishing, but the last 5 years I've been fishing a lot more on my own. And I've noticed that if I'm going to be more successful, I need to move more, I need to change more things up, and I need to be more willing to do that quicker than I had in the past. In the past, we'd go fish a spot for 4 hours. If one person was catching all the fish, we just said that was their day.
Yeah.
Where now I'm like, okay, this isn't working. I have to do something different. One time I decided, hey, I got a buddy who fishes Santee Cooper. Let's try a Santee Cooper rig. And I caught 3 channel cats over 6 pounds right in a row. I mean, it was almost a triple, but it wasn't, because it was one. As soon as it hit the bank, I looked over and the next rod bent down. Then as soon as I got that one, I didn't even get the hooks out. As soon as I got it on the bank, the third rod went down. It was fantastic, but it's because I changed all my rigs. In the past, we would have been like, nah, they're just not biting today. And we probably would have just sat there and had conversation the whole time and didn't catch any fish. But that day I'm like, I got to do something different. Other days it's adding some color or adding some rattles, doing something different to try to change the offering.
Right.
What do you guys feel about that? Am I onto a pattern, or am I just
No, you
patterning
are.
in my head?
You are. And I
Absolutely.
think that's something that you can relate to bass fishing too. You fish different lures in different seasons. You fish different structure in different seasons. You fish different depths, so I think it's all relative. And although, you may not have as many varieties in catfishing from the bank or catfishing from the bank as you do bass fishing from a boat, it still matters. There's still a pattern. There's still different strategies to try. So I saw a good question from one of our Boom Squad members, and I think it's relevant to the previous question, which was, what's one of the struggles? And it was, Tom, have you learned to take a skunk and still enjoy yourself? And that's a really good question because I've had to learn to enjoy myself this year. I mean, fishing's been tough for me this year. So,
Yeah.
what do you have to say about that? Are you to that point yet?
Yeah. Oh, I've had enough of them. I mean, even going back to my bass days, I've had bass days, where everybody in my club caught 30 fish and I didn't find any that day. So yeah, it comes and it goes. However, I'm thinking if I were live, like you do, and trying to catch fish and to tell people about fishing, and I wasn't catching any, I think that'd be a lot more pressure than just me sitting at the end of my dock.
Very true. Yeah, live streams make everything that much harder. And it's harder to take a skunk day when you're live streaming. But our community, for the community we have, I'll say, they would rather just talk to you and join you in
Yeah.
the process of catfishing. But it really doesn't garner too much support from those who hadn't seen you yet. So they come in
Yeah.
and you haven't caught a fish and they're like, "Yeah, I'm out of here."
But
Because they
I
don't
think the other
they don't
thing,
know you.
yeah, I think the other thing though is very seldom do I actually fish alone.
True.
Um, that was one of the other issues with my bass fishing is a lot of times I was out by myself and I do have some health concerns and stuff, and I just didn't really want to keep taking that chance. And so I like to try to fish with somebody, and
Mhm.
I've got a good group of guys down here between Aaron and
You do.
the guys from One Ton and Two Stands. Fished with him many times. Laurie's came up and fished with us. So there's always somebody, even if you're not catching fish, we're always having fun. We're having a great time.
And I agree. And
Let's
if
talk about that group for a second.
yeah, go ahead.
That group talks to me a lot, and I've heard that you have an amazing cook in your house, chef,
I do.
shall we say.
Yes, I
And
do.
and I've even heard that your chef is so kind as to field requests and create those requests for your special guests who arrive to fish with you.
Yep. Yep.
You are a lucky man.
I am. Michelle is great. She really she's an Italian woman. She really loves to cook. She loves to please people. She loves to see them enjoy her cooking, and she likes to like sometimes a lot of things she'll make she's never made before. She's like, well, I want to try something different, and it always comes out great. I bet she made this past weekend. She made homemade coffee ice cream for me.
Ooh.
And it was outstanding. That's my favorite flavor. I love coffee, and coffee ice cream is my favorite ice cream. So with some espresso, oh God, was it delicious.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
And that's
That
definitely
went with
something you need on that dock for 12 hours, 12, 14
yeah,
hour fishing sessions.
but that went with the Mondo 2-inch thick ribeye and the homemade French fries. So it she excelled. It was a crowd pleaser. I said it doesn't help much when you get down there in the dark and you get in that chair and you don't want to get up back out of it again when the food coma comes. But you take that as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
So when those bells start ringing, you get up out of that chair.
Bells will be ringing.
Yeah.
So you have this goal, which I think is a really cool story. You are on a quest, I'll call it, to
Mhm.
catch 365 catfish in 1 year in 2021, which
Yeah.
equals out to a catfish per day.
Right.
And we need to clarify this for all the people listening, all the people in chat. For one, what were you thinking? Two, how did you get the inspiration for this? Let's just go with that. So, what was the inspiration for this, and what number are you on right now?
Well, the number right now is 235. Primarily from the dock. There's, I think I caught 40 of those fish came from over at Kerr Lake, which was right next to us. And the 3 that I caught at the Patriot James tournament. So other than 43 fish, all of them came off my little dock. So
that's impressive.
There's
I got to say though,
101 days left in this year.
Yeah, I got to start picking it up, getting multiple days. But I don't know where it came from. Just one night I said, you know what? We do really well in December. As cold as it got, if you could stand to be out there, the fish were biting. And we caught fish right up till the middle of January. And I said, if I can catch them at the coldest time of the year, I said, I can catch them all year long. But I hadn't fished didn't do a whole lot last summer. I hadn't taken that into account. But I just said, you know what? Why don't I? Because everybody has, I don't have the reception to have a channel, I don't think, or to go live from the dock. It's terrible down there for me. And I said, so I got to have my own thing to keep me interested. And I said, I don't know, let's try for the 365. And I got it in my head, and we were off and rolling. So I hope it's gonna finish out. I'm gonna definitely have to step it up though. Start spending more time down on the water instead of sitting in front of the computer.
So how confident are you that you'll reach that goal?
I think I will. Yeah. I said the last 2 weekends, usually every Friday, Aaron comes up and catfish regulators and fishes with me. And we usually fish from early Friday morning, like 7 a.m. until Saturday sometime, with a break for dinner in between. And that's about it. And we caught 19 fish between us. He had 10, I had 9. The week before that, I think we had 18 fish between us, and they were pretty evenly split. So if I can do, at least I got to do more than 7 fish a week. I got to start picking up days. But yeah, I think it's certainly within range, because the bite's only going to get better, I think, as the water starts cooling down. And I definitely think I can do it. Yeah.
And how do you document these fish? You were kind of talking with me the other night, and you said it was a little bit of a struggle. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I take a picture of each fish, or have somebody take it for me. But I have to have a tripod with me, and at night I was having a hard time taking pictures. At night, you get your fish off, and now you got to get the camera set up. And I said I'd take a picture of the fish, and I'd go and look at it, and I'd look, I didn't like the picture. You couldn't see the fish clearly enough to tell what it was, so I'd set the timer and back up and do it again. And I'd do some of these 5, 6, 7 times a piece. And finally I said, well, it ain't going to get any better, I guess. And with the lighting that I have, it's pitch black down there. So I want to let the fish go. I don't certainly want to hurt any of these fish, and I don't keep any of them. So
that's a point we didn't that's a point we didn't bring up, which is so important. You practice CPR.
Yep. And so I take what I get, as long as it's distinguishable as the outline of a fish. I have it on my phone, and I download it to my computer, and I have a file with all 235 of them in it. And at the end of the year, when I make it, I'm going to do a montage, I guess. I'll probably have somebody have to help me do that, but if I can't figure it out on my own yet. But then I started thinking, maybe I should break this up, because who really wants to sit and watch 365 fish file bio? I said, other than, my family, I don't think anybody really. Okay, well, then it's a done deal.
I would watch it. It's something. It's something. Well, but you see, if you look on YouTube, there's this one really famous video. It's gotten several million views on it, but it's a kid. He starts off as a kid at 12 years old, and he takes a picture of himself from 12 until the day he was married, every day. And then he just does a video montage. And basically, it's so cool because his eyes stay the same and his mouth stays the same, but his hair changes, and you see all the people coming around him. It's awesome. I'll send you the link whenever I can. But
that sounds interesting. Yeah.
It's really cool, and depending on how good the pictures are or whatever, you could montage those fish the same way, and I think it would be awesome. You know, some people would even watch twice, as in the comment.
Oh, thanks, Chris. But that
That's
was my
awesome.
thought, whether I should trim it to some of the bigger ones, or because there's a lot of them that are 2-pound fish, and when you fish from the bank, you catch what you catch, and we don't have a whole big channel cat population here because we have such big blues and flatheads here. But there's some channels in there that are on the very small. There's actually been 3 fish now that were so small that I wouldn't even take a picture with them, because I'll be laughed at if I take a picture with these fish. So literally they were like the Dobson sized fish, the 3 inchers, the 4 inchers, and I said, no, I ain't taking a picture holding that up. But
I'd still count it though.
well, if I come up 3 short, I'm going to be mad at myself. But
yeah,
for now,
you
I
will.
gotta let it go. Well, that's
so
right.
much time in a year.
I kind of laugh at Aaron. Kind of, it's like when I catch a fish and Aaron says, "You need the net." I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "He doesn't look that big." I said, "So?" I said, if I drop this fish lifting him out of the water and I'm 1 shy, I'm going to be mad. I said, so please come net my fish, or give it to me and I'll do it myself.
A nick in your leader, the leader could break. I mean, these things happen.
Oh yeah.
They make that one little motion and they'll spit that hook.
Yep, absolutely. And it's not even the big. It's not the big ones that do that. It's the little ones. The big ones, they stay hooked. You got we have a thing.
I was just talking to Mike today on Google Chat, and I was watching one of River Certified's videos from last year, and he had hooked. The name of the title was "I Hooked the Fish of My Dreams," which is a great title because he never said he caught it, but he hooked what he says was at least a 50-pound flathead in his kayak, and he's fighting it. The rod is like the perfect U shape, and it's an awesome fight. And he gets it up to the kayak, and then it's gone. And poor Spencer, he got right up to the F-bomb, and he decided to go rah instead. But his leader, because he had been fighting it so long in that structure, had frayed and it popped. So I mean, that's a perfectly normal thing to do, especially if you're trying to do something as spectacular as you're doing. Net all those fish.
Yeah. I noticed one. I caught at the time it was my PB. I was fishing by myself off the dock, and it was middle of the afternoon in the spring. And I caught a big one, and next to our dock in the ramp, there's other people have boat docks. And this fish was running so fast, he actually ran under the second boat dock, and he wrapped around the piling. And I said, oh man, there ain't no way I'm getting him out of there. And I just put a little bit of pressure on him, backed him off a little bit. And after about 3-4 minutes, he swam back out. And I got him over, and I got him in the net and lifted him up onto the dock. And when I felt that leader, I had a 2-foot leader that was so frayed, I don't even know how that fish stayed on. But if I can make a plug, slime line, extra tough leader material, 30-pound or 50-pound test, did the job.
Yeah, I mean, by all means.
I like it.
But we're gonna move. Well, that's a great segue. We're gonna move into equipment now, and I'm gonna turn it over to Mike. But I'm gonna turn it over starting off with a question. So did you go all in on the catfishing equipment when you switched? Like, did you buy everything you needed, or did you buy it a little at a time?
Well, I started off slow because I didn't have any gear other than the Abu that I had. We went to our local bait store over on Kerr Lake. If you're not familiar, Kerr holds the world record blue cat, 143 pounds caught in Kerr Lake, and they've had 141 caught in there as well. So they carry a lot of catfish stuff. And I said, look, I'm transitioning from bass fishing to catfishing. No, tell me what I need to get started. And the guy was very helpful. He walked me through, and I got ugly sticks. I got me and my son and an ugly stick, catfish special, whatever they are, the $40 ones. And what were they? They were the Okuma Avenger spinning reels, the 6,000 series, or 6,600, 6,000. And I really liked it. The only issue that I mean, they served our purpose fine. They're good rods. My son caught a 44-pound blue and a 35-pound flathead on it right after we bought them. The only issue is that they're only made for casting up to 3 ounces. And on my lake, we have a dam up above us, and when they're pushing water through the lake to generate electricity, sometimes you need a lot of weight to hold bottom if you're out in the river channel. So I started to look. I said, yeah, I am going to keep up this catfish thing, and I really like it, and I'm going to look around and see what was out there. And I came across Chris Flores, nice little rods that he makes, the Blue Cat rods. Mm-hmm. And I bought a couple of them and fell in love with them. Those rods are awesome. And then I later added the flathead rod, which I also love. And I have those. And Aaron was nice enough to gift me one of his Mad Catz rods because he hates the color green. And he so he bought me the green one.
Wait a second.
Whoa. I know. Isn't that weird?
I have issue with that.
I know you would
on this show.
Yeah. What? Put him on the list of people not to invite on the show. No, I'm just kidding. So for those of you on the podcast, my favorite color is green. I do green everything. So anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I had the surge rod, and that lights up well under. We fish a lot at night, and he likes to set up the black light and let the rods shine. So I've slowly bought a couple of more. I've got, let's see, the Bolt, which is the highlighter yellow, the orange Catfish Down, which obviously is orange, and the new one, which is called the Panther, which is the color of the Carolina Panthers blue. And all of them light up under the black light magnificently. So I have to rotate my rods. What's that, Mike?
Are those all Mad Catz?
Yeah, those 4 are Mad Catz. Yep.
Okay.
So I got 4 Mad Catz and 3 Muddy Rivers, and I got to rotate them because I've only got 4 rod holders on the dock, and I split that with Aaron. So when we fish here, I can only fish a couple of them at a time. But of course, I'm I'll say it, I'm a real snob. I like my Swedish-made Abus, and I don't think I'll ever if I couldn't get an Abu, I'll just put the rod away until I get a reel for it. I just
Come on,
a believer in that company. I learned in my bass fishing days, you get what you pay for at some point. And I mean, I have bass reels, my Shimano bass reels that were made in the 90s. I still have today, and they're still as good today as they were the day I bought them. Because I take care of them, I maintain them. But I see all these nice things I'd like to buy, but it's like, I can't break the ones I got. I can't justify buying anymore. I've got like 15 bass reels, and I can't break one of them, no matter what I do to them. They're just doing the job.
Have you met Mike Murillo? He can justify buying anything.
Oh, yes, I can. I just push the button. The only thing stopping me is pushing this button. Push the button. Confirm your order.
Are you sure? You've purchased this 3 times already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely get that. Would you like to order again? Yep.
Yes, I do. Now, if you notice on Amazon, it puts that there for you. It says, would you like to order again? Now, what I've noticed is if you order enough of this stuff, those sellers will offer you an additional 10 or 15, 25% off. So don't hesitate to look there, because you may then reap the benefits of your loyalty to these products, to these sellers. You deserve that. You deserve that discount. And if you got 3 of the same worth, that's simple. Push the button. Now, getting past that equipment addiction, you triggered me right there, Tom. I told you it was going to happen in these conversations. You said 1990s Shimano reels.
Yep.
Which ones? Because I
Dorados.
too happen to be an owner of several 1990 Shimano reels. They are in the vault, and they will not break. They are
Yep,
fantastic.
mine are the low profile green Corrados, the original shape of the Corrado.
Oh yes, I remember those.
And,
Back
and
then, low
you can look.
profiles didn't like me. I was a straight spinning guy back then, but I remember those green reels.
They're beautiful. And then the spinning reel, which was also a Shimano, was the original Stratic, which they still have out today too. They've changed it many times, but an interesting thing is if you watch any of our videos, that Aaron and the guys, they all have a hard time because I use left-handed reels, even though I'm right-handed. That came about when I first started. I bought my first baitcaster was a Quantum Energy EX400 or something, and I hadn't even learned to cast it. I'd taken out like 2 days, and the mechanics in the reel actually broke. So I sent it back to Quantum, and they sent me back a refurbished reel that was in worse shape than the reel that I had sent them. It was just junk. And back then, that was an $80 reel. That was high dollar for a reel in the mid-90s. And so I got kind of disgusted, and I wrote a letter to the company because Quantum, at that time, I don't know if they still are, but they were owned by Zebco. And I wrote a letter about how I've been fishing with a Zebco 202 all my life, and I finally, upgrade to this expensive reel, and it's junk. So maybe 5-6 days later, I got a package from FedEx from Quantum, from Zebco, from the president, a letter with the president of the company sending me an upgraded reel from the one that I had broke, which I thought was very nice. But those were right-handed reels, and while I was waiting for all this to go down, I still had to fish, and my buddy had left-handed Corrados, and he says, "Well, here, just use mine." And so I actually learned how to cast and deal with them on the left-handed reel. So by the time the Quantum came, I didn't need it anymore because it was right-handed, and I sold that to a guy in my club and bought another Corrado. And I've been using left-handed ever since. It's just easier for bass fishing when you cast with your right arm, and then you can grab the reel and start reeling when you hit those top water bites and all that. And I've kept it that way. I can still do the right-handed ones. But yeah, these guys make it seem like it's Aaron turns my reel upside down when there's a fish when he's reeling it in. But
shame on you, Aaron. Shame on you.
So one day when we were fishing over at Kerr with 1 ton, and Aaron and myself, and Aaron and I went to go pick up lunch for the group, and left my rods in the water, and I come back, and my rod is laying on the picnic table. When I put the food down, I said, "What's it?" Yeah, we couldn't figure out how to reel in your rod, and the fish got hung up, and we broke them off.
Well, I got another segue question for you, Tom. So,
yeah,
you said you bought it and gradually. You bought the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about bank fishing, and it's easy to get off subject. So, for anyone who's thinking about starting to bank fish, especially for catfish, what are the things that you have to have right off the bat to be successful? Not to be comfortable, not to have the best or catch the most fish, but to catch a fish. What should you have, and what should you not wait to get?
You should have sharp hooks, rods that are geared towards what you're fishing, kind of like I mentioned with the ugly sticks. If you fish a pond where there's no current, you don't need to be throwing any more than 3 ounces of weight, in most situations. And those would do somebody good. I love those rods. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that I went to beefier rods to be able to cast further distances and into heavier water. And I'd say good line. I don't know if. No, I don't want to say that. Okay, all right. I see a lot of guys who like to do things the cheapest way possible. And if that works for you, great. But especially when you come to line, I was very, very picky about my line, even when I was bass fishing.
Right.
There's talk of shelf life and that you can't have them in the direct sun or it weakens them, and what knots you can tie on them before they lose their strength, and there's a lot goes into that. And I think good line, a good drag on your reel, or if you're not familiar with, really, if you're just getting started and you're not sure on that, have it looser than you need it, a little looser you need to be in case you do hook into something bigger. And that's about it. I mean, fishing is fishing. It's sharp hooks, good line, and a reel that ain't gonna lock up on you. That's anybody can fish with that. Get started.
Like, I guess what I meant was like, specifically to bank fishing. I mean, that you're absolutely right with all that. Rods, reels, sharp hooks, good line. That goes for anybody, really. But specifically bank fishing, like if I want to go out to the bank, let's say I got two rod and reel combos, good line, a decent reel, sharp hooks, and I want to go out to the bank fishing for catfish. What do I need besides those things?
Fresh bait.
Fresh bait.
You have to have an idea, like, of what you're fishing to be successful. Carolina rig, I said a lot of time in this, I would do this in bass fishing. Carolina rig is the best way to let you know what's on the bottom of your lake. But in bass fishing, I would throw it without a hook on it. I just have the swivel and the weight on it and drag bottom until I found out where the drop offs were, where the brush piles were, where that kind of stuff is. And so a lot of people get frustrated when you first start if you're getting hung up all the time and breaking gear off. And this is a way that you can be kind of proactive and see what's out there. And different times of the year, you're going to notice that the fish are shallow or the fish are deeper. So if you have two rods, I would put one shallow and one one a little bit deeper, and you see which ones get bit. Something else you might want to think about is a comfortable chair or a canopy, in case it rains. That's probably more than somebody first just getting started thinking about. But decent rod holders would also help.
So what's a good one that you recommend to put in the ground?
Well, I've seen there's a company over here that makes one made out of aluminum that I really like, but they're sold at Bobcats. They don't have a brand name on them, but they're made here locally. But it's basically aluminum tube with a welded angle iron on it, and they go you hammer them down into the ground, and they stay down in there pretty tight. I like those better than the spiral type ones. I don't know.
Walmart.
Walmart sells them. A couple other places. I don't know. Actually, we submitted a takedown for Aaron on one of his spiral ones, and where that just the fish just pulled that thing straight. He bent it. He actually bent it at the ground and pulled that thing straight to the ground. It's like, no. I said if that fish was a couple pounds bigger, that thing would have been good. His rod would have been gone. But I like the type with the tube that you can stick the rod in. It has to be long enough to get a lot of the rod butt in it.
Right. And Mike, you can make your own, can't you? Make your own rod holders.
Oh yeah. I did that this year. Actually, I bought some PVC pipe so that way more of the butt could go into the ground. And I did not do the iron pole, so to speak, or whatever it is that a lot of people had mentioned.
Rebar.
The rebar. There's a good word. Yeah, rebar. I went into the fencing section of our Menards and found it was just a single fence stake or fence pole or something, and it cost $1.
Huh.
And then I talked with Chunky, Chunky Cats, which may or may not have been a mistake. And he's just like, "Oh man, you don't need those pipe clamps to put on there real tight. They look ugly. Just put duct tape on
JB
it.
Weld.
It holds." He's like, "If you want, put some JB Weld on there." So I put duct tape on the thing, right? And it's fine for me because I'm
Yeah.
real careful about doing it. But then I let somebody else use the rod holder, and they're like, "Here, sorry, this all moved right here. You're gonna need to retape that." It's like sticking way up out of the way. I'm lucky it didn't go through their hand. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe this is a little bit more dangerous than what I thought. So when you're building stuff at home, people, please consider safety first. Safety before ease of construction is definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I've seen is people get the rebar, right? And they'll take the PVC pipe, like 3/4 inch or inch, and they'll drill a hole in the back or one side. They'll drill 2 holes, and you get really thick, really thick zip ties. And so you'll go through that hole and then around the rebar, and that usually works. But you know, there's several different ways. There's several different brands. You can go with the monster rod holders. They got some expensive ones, but they're indestructible. And you got Rams bait and tackle. He makes some, and there's a whole kind of there's a bunch of different ones. I've tried the Walmart pre-made PVC ones. They're pretty stout, and I just take a rubber hammer and kind of knock those in the ground.
Well, here's the one. I don't know if you can see it here. This is the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that kind of looks like. So what he's holding up for the people in the podcast is some angle iron that's been welded to, looks like some circular tubing.
Yep.
And it's got a bottom in it with a hole drilled in, so water can drain out if it rains, and that sucker's not going anywhere. So some looks like some maybe 1/8 inch angle iron. I don't know. I'm just judging by it.
That looks like about right.
They've welded that to that. It looks like metal PVC. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it's all aluminum. And I got to be honest, one of them did break. Is in the middle of January. It was about 18 degrees out, and tried knocking it into the ground, and there was a rock, a couple inches underneath, and it separated. And Aaron was where he works. There's a guy they do a lot of welding with aluminum and all that. He was able to get somebody to put it back together for me. Knock it off.
Sounds like your little kid is in there.
Yeah, there's kittens out on my deck, and there's dogs inside the house looking at them. We're gonna work on that here.
What are some creature comforts that you recommend for somebody who, all right, you've started off bank fishing, you figured out, hey, this might be for me. What are some things that you recommend? You mentioned a comfortable chair, and maybe a tent. Yep. What else do you think they should have?
Well, a nice cooler, keep some drinks in, especially, you don't want to get dehydrated if you're out in the middle of the day. Probably most people don't fish through the middle of the night. But the chairs that'll fit you. Not all chairs are made for some of us bigger people.
Amen.
So you get something for your weight capacity with a cup holder on it, and you definitely need a bait bucket with an aerator on it if you're going to try to keep live bait.
Good point.
Not say you can't catch it on cut bait, frozen bait, or fish that have died and you put in the fridge, but they just seem to do much better with live bait. Other than that, I said this has been kind of there's a heck of a lot less gear needed for catfishing than bass fishing, I guess.
Yeah.
So, every now and then I find a little thing that I like, but the bells, I like those at night.
Maybe a good lighting system.
Yeah, absolutely. We you can go 2 routes on that. We have one of the Uncle Lou's lights that we use, that we put well behind us to kind of draw the bugs away from us, in the summertime. And then he has his the black light that Aaron likes to use to light up all of our rods on the dock.
So for those of you on the podcast, the Uncle Lou light he's referring to is called a convex light. It's a LED like rectangle on an extension pole. And you can find those at Uncle Lou's Tackle, and you can find them on Amazon.com. They're really good light.
I think we have the 360, which I think is exactly the same. I mean, from Stan has the convex, and I looked at it, and I can't tell a difference. If there is a difference, they look to be the same light, and they work the same. They spiral up, and everything looks the same. And they're awesome. They do a really good job keeping those. Keeping everything. You can keep it illuminated behind you in the dark, and you keep the bugs off you.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what are some other creature comforts that you think people should think about?
Well, I have really grown fond of my cart. Elston attaches lights all over his because he fishes at night. I don't. So I don't have all the lights on there, but you can carry all this stuff up and down, most hills. I got mine with some nice wide tires on it. So it'll just monster truck right over anything. The wheels are wider because I do fish along some sandy banks. So the skinnier tires would dig right down into that sand. These monster truck tires, they don't do that. They stay on top and they keep going. Since I grew up and I guess I still am a carp fisherman, I got a rod pod because it will sit on top of the ground. It doesn't have to go into the ground. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's too many rocks. You heard Tom say that he broke one of those on a rock, his rod holder. So I have a rod pod, set up bite alarms. It has a remote. I can be 200 meters or more away from my rods, and it has a either a volume or a, hey, stop laughing, Kevin. It has a volume or a vibration feature, so I don't have to drive everybody on the lake crazy saying, hey, that guy's got those European alarms and he's all loud. It'll just shake. I can fall asleep and that thing will shake me awake. I've done it many times. That comfy chair. So that's taking things way further. But
Aaron's got the bite alarms, the ones that sound like a car alarm, and those. I refuse to let him use them. Yeah, I won't let him use them down here because of the neighbors, because how close we are to other people. And so we actually even got a notice. We were mentioned in the homeowners' yearly meeting minutes that the people using the dock in the middle of the night need to be mindful of their voices carrying. So no bite alarms for Aaron. So
you guys just text each other now when you're down there fishing?
Yeah.
No words.
Well, that's the thing, in the dock, I mean, we don't really need a wagon would be great, but we back right up to the grass at the end of the dock. We're 4 feet from the dock.
That's
so
awesome.
And of course, I guess that would be something that comes in handy, like in bad weather when it's raining, or it's nice to have a 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited sitting right at the end of the dock with your high beams on, looking at your rod tips. That helps.
Well, here are a few other things I thought about. Fishing in the winter, you might want to get your little buddy heater, propane heater, something to keep you warm. And especially if you have females with you, if you're fishing with your wife, or maybe you had too much steak, you might want to get you what my wife has deemed the Pea Palace, which is one of those little pop-up tents, and you can have a little bit of privacy there. And somebody mentioned bushes in the chat, but I think my wife wants to go to the bushes, so having something like that. Before we run out of time, I want to go on to a couple other things that we had on here. And one of them's very important, but one of them is another about equipment. What are the things one thing, if you can think about it, that you haven't purchased yet that you're really looking forward to getting for the bank?
Tom, this question's for you.
Because Mike has a list, and on Amazon it's called Mike's book.
Well, if there's something that really I'm looking into and I'm debating, it's getting all the rods I have, whether they're the Muddy Rivers or the Mad Cats or the 7.5 footers, and I can catch them a pretty decent way. But now they're coming out with the 10.5 footers and the 12 footers, and I've seen some guys fishing with them and being able to cast a little bit further out into the channel. Where I fish, there's about off the dock, basically about a 70-yard flat. And then it drops off into the river channel, which goes from like 6 feet down to 22, 23, 24 feet.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And sometimes they're on the top of the flat, and then sometimes they're in the channel. And sometimes, when the wind's blowing or the current's running, it just makes a difference where you get out there. And we can get out there with what we're doing now. But I'm wondering how much further could I get out into the deeper part of that channel with a longer rod. So if there's one thing, I'm debating it. Like I said, I'm catching fish now. I'm doing well. I don't know, on a dock with 2 people, 3 people, and chairs and buckets and everything else laying out there, if I have room to be swinging a 12.5 foot rod around. So
it'll probably be Tom? It. You see this?
Yeah.
What is
you fish in open water though, right? In an open area.
What does that mean?
Open bank.
Pull the trigger. Yeah. Buy it. Get it. You need it. And Mike's agreeing. He's like, "Why haven't you gotten this yet?"
I have
Mike's probably
rods.
He's probably even thinking about sending you one now.
I would. I'd send you a 12-foot.
If you send one, send a green one, so Aaron won't use it.
Oh yeah, it's left-handed.
Yeah.
It's a left-handed rod. All right, Tom, we got 2 more questions for you, and I hope that everyone on the listening on the podcast and is enjoying this. Tom is our first guest, and he's done a great job. But one of the questions is, what do you enjoy the most about bank fishing? And feel free to take a few seconds to think about this. What do you enjoy the most about bank fishing?
It's easy on my aching bones. Sitting in a chair, watching a rod tip. I said, no, not a big secret. I'm 57 years old, and I'm not a young guy anymore, and I'm not in the best of shape. Even if my health was good, my frame isn't what it used to be. So I just enjoy sitting out, talking with the guys. And even when I'm by myself, sometimes I'll turn a radio on. Sometimes I'll just sit in silence and listen to what's going on around me. We have a pet carp down by the dock who comes and visits us at night. He swims between our dock and the ramp and the dock on the other side of it. This thing's about 4 feet long. It's a monster carp, and he's up in like 2 feet of water. And Aaron keeps threatening to, next time he comes up next to Doc, he's going to jump on his back and grab him. I said, well, good luck with that. So, but yeah, I like being out in nature, I guess you'd say, in public, in the dark by myself. And I just, doesn't really matter too much if I catch something. Obviously that's the goal, but I'm not too terribly disappointed if I don't. If I get down there, had a good time, and enjoyed my own company, then I guess it was a good night.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I did have something to talk on from one of your earlier questions that I forgot.
Go for it.
At the moment, we skipped right. I skipped right over it. Was the my knots.
Okay.
I was a big believer, again, coming from my long bass career. You don't need no snell knot. That Palomar knot will do anything a snell knot will do, and it's just as strong. And in theory, it is as strong. Palomar is a heck of a knot, but it's not made for the circle hook. And it took me a while to learn that lesson too. And now I use the Doc Lang snell knot, and I think it's increased my hookup ratio immensely. But I was, the Palomar is a great knot. It won't break under most situations. It's just not for that type of hook. If I had J hook, maybe I'd go back to it. But circle hooks, it's going to be the snell knot. And it took me, my hard-headedness, a while to learn that lesson.
Yeah, you definitely need that snell, because the harder the fish pulls, the stronger that knot gets. And for anyone who's listening on the podcast, maybe you don't know what a snell knot is or a Palomar knot is, it's really easy. Just go search it on YouTube, type in snell, SNELL, and you'll find it. You'll find 3 or 4 different versions on how to tie it. And then the
300 or
Palomar
400
knot.
versions.
Yeah, probably. Palomar knot, just start typing how you think Palomar sounds or looks, and then YouTube will correct you. And you can find that. I remember the first time I tried to type in Palomar, I was like, Pal, PALEMR.
I put an
And
I
YouTube
in
was
there.
like, did you mean Palomar knot? Oh man! So
and
one
the
last
other greatest,
question. Oh, go for it.
the other greatest thing that you can have when you're bank fishing. Now, keep in mind that when my dock is probably only 300 yards from the house, so that's why I when you're talking about equipment, I didn't think of the Pea Palace, because if I need to go to the bathroom, I jump in the Jeep and I come up the top of the hill, and there we are. So that's something that's way out of my line. But
Gotcha.
it also helps when you have a gourmet kitchen 300 yards away. And she makes what we call ooey gooey bars. And it's nice when we're fishing in the morning and sun's come up, and I'll get a text message, come and get your breakfast. And the breakfast sandwiches are ready, all sealed up and ready to bring back down, so we can finish out the morning, so we don't even have to bring in our rods. So Michelle has been a huge help to getting us going, to keeping us out there on the water and keeping us fed.
I'm definitely planning on making a trip up there. I mean,
Submit your menu in advance.
The fishing is going to be awesome in itself, just hanging out with you guys. But the food, it sounds like, is going to be the premier reason to visit Lake Gadsden, the dock, as it were.
Yeah, we've had some meals for sure. Oof.
All right, Tom, what motivation could you offer to people who are on the fence about bank fishing or catfishing in general?
The lesson, I say, it goes back to the patience thing. You have to give it a chance. It's not a fast-paced fishery where you're going to throw your line in and 3 minutes later you're getting bit, like if you were catching bluegill or panfish or something to that extent. You got to commit a little bit of time before you make your decision if it's for you or not, which is where things like the ugly stick and kind of that stuff come in. You get what you can afford to see that it'll handle any fish you want, but it'll give you an idea if it's what you want to do. Whether you want to do it just on every other weekend with your kids, or whether you want to jump right into it, it'll give you an idea. But yeah, the bite is slow, or can be, anyways, unless you fish the Potato River. But it's we work. We put in. I said we got 19 fish last weekend, and we put in about 25 or 26 hours of fishing if you take out the time we ate. But So yeah, it's if you have kids or something that are antsy and they don't want to sit still, it's probably not the best sport for them to take up. But it was good for me. As I said, my son got me started in the catfishing, and he was my bass fishing buddy. When he was 4, when he was on the boat, he was casting his own spinning rod, and the very first fish he caught was a 15-inch bass. And he was so excited. And I had to actually hold on to his life preserver from the back so he wouldn't fall out of the boat trying to lift that fish in. And we grew up fishing together, bass fishing, and there's a pond in our community that we would go to, and he loved being on the boat. And then he became a teenager, and he had other interests and friends and things like that. And it was really nice when we started catfishing together because we could sit out on the dock and talk and kind of rekindle what we had years ago and find out what's going on in each other's lives and all that. And so he comes by every other weekend or so when we're out there fishing. He'll come down and hang out with us for a while, whether he fishes or not, or just comes to chat. And I appreciate that.
And right there, like, that should be the premier reason for anybody to go fishing in general, but then bank fishing, where you can actually, as a boat fisherman, you're constantly doing something. Even catfishing, you're trying to find the fish. You're able to relocate a little easier. Bank fishing, it seems like you can sit there and you're literally waiting on the fish to swim by. And while you're doing that, you can have these relationship builders or these rekindling conversations. And that's time that you can't replace, and you definitely can't get it back. So that's awesome. And I'm so glad that your son recognizes that. And I as a son myself, and with a father that loves fishing, I've recognized that too. And thankfully it wasn't too late. Some people don't have that opportunity. So I'm so happy to hear that, and I'm sure that Mike Murillo agrees with me.
Oh yeah, I once wrote a speech, and it was titled "Fishing isn't about the fish," and I told that story basically just like you did right there about how everything else that comes into it's just so amazing.
Can I tell my dad's story? Can I tell my dad's story?
Yeah,
go for it.
Back 2003 or so, my dad came down just before my mom had passed, and they had come down to see us, and I had taken my dad out fishing, and he likes to fish, and he just likes to catch anything. Even now he calls me and tells me how many bluegill he caught when he went up to the pond at night. But I had a magical day. We went out bass fishing, and we hit this one spot, and between us we caught 60 bass. I mean, just like we're using crankbaits in it, and every single cast you just counted to 3 and something would hit your rod. And I've never had a day like it ever again. But my dad still talks about that day. He thinks it happens every day. They think can't wait till we come back and we can do that again. It's like, I don't want to break his heart and tell him it don't always work like that, But right. I was so happy that he was there for that, and he was a part of it, because he's still in Massachusetts, so we don't get together all too much anymore. But yeah, he the smile on his face and the pictures that I have from that day, some of my biggest treasures.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think my dad cherishes those times too, where he's kind of like, we father and son teamed up, and the Lakins did it. Them Lakin boys did it. There's one story kind of like that, Tom, where, and I've told the story several times. It's a couple years ago. It wasn't too long ago. But it's the first really good story, like from my adult life, a fishing story with my dad that was really epic. We went out shell cracker fishing, and in April and May here on the Cooper River, they bed. And if you hit it just right, you'll catch monster shell crackers.
Wow.
Or red-eared sunfish, for those of you who don't know. And, if you put the mouth of the fish at your fingertips, the tail will almost go up to the bend in your arm, the elbow. I mean,
Wow.
those things are monsters, like 1.5 pound, maybe 2 pound shell
Wow.
crackers. And we sat there. We got on the water at 6:30, right when the sun was coming up, and we slaughtered them. We caught 80 fish
Oof.
by the time we got to 8:00. So an hour and a half, we caught 80 fish, and you can only keep 30 a person. So we were culling fish before 8:00. And we just kind of looked at each other, and we just had that smirk on our face. And I know he was thinking, them Lakin boys did it. But then we were like, well, what do we do now? It's only 8:00.
Yeah, right.
So we kept fishing, and we were just catch and release.
Yeah. Wow.
I would like to think that if the gnats weren't so bad that day, that we would have stayed out there all day long. But yeah, Mike, you got a good fishing story, a good dad story.
Well, you want me to talk you want me to talk numbers? You want me to talk the one that got away?
Oh.
You want me to talk about the one that didn't get away? You guys pick.
The one that didn't get away. Well, let's let Tom pick.
Yeah, let's hear the big fish story.
Okay, you want to hear about the one that got away or the one that didn't get away?
The one that didn't get away.
Okay. Well, I'll tell this story because I wanted to tell the other story. Okay. It must have been 3 years previous. A big fish got away. So my dad is down fishing on the bank at the base of a dock, a magical dock located in Spirit Lake, Iowa. And we're like, man, what are you doing down there? It's like, you got to fish over here. That way you have the ability to fight the fish this way, that way, in case it takes off and runs. And he's like, no, I'm fine down here in the shade. And we're out there just getting beat on by the sun out there on that dock. And I'm thinking, it's okay. I don't burn that badly. And I could stand to lose a few pounds. Well, anyway, pretty soon you see his rod come up. And the tip doesn't come up. Just as the rod comes up, and that tip is just buried. And we're carp fishing. And I could tell right then and there he needed a net. He needed a big net, and he needed some help. So we pulled all of our lines in real quick, get him out of his way, and we went to go be there with him. Well, this dock was right in front of where the lake feeds water into a slough, and it's one of the nicest sloughs that you would have ever dreamt of. And the fish is running towards the boat docks that are right there, and he's trying to fight this thing and keep it away from there. And sure enough, he does. And just to make the story a little bit shorter, those years before, I netted a fish for him, and it broke through the net. It was so heavy. He had fixed his net, and it broke through the net and got away past my reach, past my foot. And that carp, I swear to you, was wider than I can reach my hand wide. That's how wide its belly was.
Wow.
It had shoulders, full muscles, everything. Now, moving forward, I decided this time this fish wasn't going to get away. So there I was waist deep in the water with the net. I scooped it up, and I'm slipping on rocks. And so my dad's holding his rod, and then he grabs a hold of me, grabs the back of my shirt, and he's like, dang it, boy, you didn't have to go all the way. I was like, this one wasn't getting away, Dad.
Yeah, right.
and it was 23 and a half pounds.
Wow.
And that is still his personal best carp. But I wasn't letting that one get away because I let the other one break through the net and swim away. So we weren't losing that fish, but
Nice.
still a good memory. Me going in
Absolutely.
the water and oddly, I don't think we were staying there, or maybe we were, but trust me, that's not the last time that I was ever that deep in the water. all other ones done by accident, though.
What an awesome story. And I'm sure everyone listening, well, maybe everyone listening has a story, something like that. And that's really, what it's all about. Making memories and sharing that experience with people. So that's awesome. Well, I got another question. Just came up in the chat. What's Tom's favorite memory so far this year? And that's your buddy Aaron asking that.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There's been so many. Wow, he's going to make me think, isn't he? Hmm.
Aaron put you on the spot.
Okay. My favorite memory of this year, we were fishing one afternoon and we had come up for lunch, Aaron and I, and we got a phone call
Mhm.
at the house phone, and Michelle had needed, she had ordered something, and it had come in, and it had to be picked up that afternoon. So it was 2:30, and the guy says, "We're only going to be here till 4." She had ordered from a fundraiser. She had ordered some Vidalia onions. The guy said, "Well, can you come get them in the next hour and a half?" So
Right.
Aaron went back to fishing, and I drove to town, which is about 10 miles up the highway, to where I had to get them. And as I'm pulling back into the driveway, Aaron called me and he said, "Hey, what you doing? Where are you?" He says, "I need you." I said, I was pulled in one side of I have a U-shaped driveway. I pulled in one side and kept on driving right back out the other. And I got down to the dock, and he had a 60-pound fish in the net laying on the
Wow.
ramp. I missed the whole thing, but man, it was, he needed me down there, and he got him in the net, and we were able to lift him up and get him weighed. And that was obviously his PB. So that's probably the nicest thing. I broke my PB a couple times this year. But yeah, seeing him catch a 60 off the dock, or the remnants, or the aftermath of seeing him catch it and being there for him were awesome. I get as much fun seeing everybody else catch fish too. It ain't just what I catch.
Right. I've had an absolute fantastic time talking with you and Mike tonight.
Me too.
I would like to have you back on the show one day. Would you agree to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
I think this begs for a part 2.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom, for coming on. Y'all check out LGBASS and Catfish Regulators on YouTube if you want to see Tom fishing. I think they usually go live on Catfish Regulators channel, but Tom may be starting some content here soon, and definitely at the end of the year, you have that montage to look forward to.
Right.
So go check out LGBASS on YouTube for that.
Yeah, I do have a couple of videos up there now. One of my PB now, that was caught with Josh and Art, and there was one of a previous PB, my flathead, the 35-pound flathead that we caught. So there's like two shorter videos and an actual short. So there is a little bit of content up there.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Go check it out. And if you're listening on the podcast, just go right on over to YouTube. Check out Palmetto Cats. Check out Michael Murillo. Check out LGBASS. Subscribe. And look forward to some awesome content from all 3 channels. Y'all, it's been an amazing evening. Thank you for all the Boom Squad members that came into chat tonight. And thank you to everybody listening to this podcast. We really appreciate your support. And if you like what you're listening to, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you share it out. Share the podcast with all your friends. You can check out more from Palmetto Cats YouTube channel and Real Deal Fishing Podcast at shoppalmettocats.com, where you can look up events coming up. You can look at merch and look at pictures and find out what's going on in the fishing community. Well, that being said, I'm going to pray us out and we'll bid you adieu. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for another fantastic evening, another successful podcast. And I just want to thank you for Tom and Mike and the people listening and the people watching on YouTube. Lord, you bless this channel, and I know that you are working through it. And I just give you all the honor and glory for it. I lift your name up in praise. Amen.
Amen.
All right, everybody. Until next time, happy fishing.